Awareness, the first forbidden key. Why consciousness alone changes outcomes. Introduction. The key that was never hidden, only ignored. We spend our lives in a frantic search for secrets. We devour self-help manuals, seek gurus, and chase complex systems, believing the answers we crave are encoded, hidden away in some remote philosophy, or locked behind a door requiring a pedigree to open. We imagine a kind of treasure map, weathered and cryptic, leading to a singular, life-altering truth. This quest, with its inherent drama, is seductive. It makes the eventual discovery feel earned, exclusive, and powerful. But what if the map is a distraction? What if the treasure chest isn't buried on a distant island, but sitting in the center of your living room, gathering dust because its appearance is too ordinary? What if the most profound key to understanding your life, your relationships, your work, and your peace was never hidden at all? What if it has simply been ignored? This is the paradox of fundamental truth. The principles that hold the greatest power are not obscure. They are not the sole property of mystics or academics. They are the quiet, steady rhythms that underpin reality itself, visible in the arc of a season, the structure of a seed, the flow of a river. They are echoed in the wisdom traditions of every culture, often reduced to cliché through repetition. Know thyself. As you sow, so shall you reap. Be present. We hear them, nod vaguely, and move on, chasing something that sounds more sophisticated. We ignore the key because it seems too simple. Our complex problems, we believe, demand complex solutions. We bypass the foundational lever, searching instead for a more intricate machine. We pursue productivity hacks while neglecting the natural law of rhythmic rest. We crave innovation while dismissing the timeless practice of focused observation. We are like a musician seeking a unique sound by ignoring the tuning of their instrument. This ignorance is not a lack of information, it is an act of avoidance. The key is plain, but using it demands responsibility. It asks for consistency over drama, for patience over quick fixes, for honest self-inquiry over the blame of external circumstances. To acknowledge that the key was always here is to acknowledge that we have always had agency. That is a weighty realization. It is easier to believe the power lies elsewhere. This book is not an unveiling of secrets. It is an exercise in remembering, in paying attention. We will examine the doors this key opens, the door to intentional living, built on the simple, ignored truth of cause and effect, the door to genuine connection, unlocked by the overlooked practice of empathy, the door to resilience, found in the plain fact of accepting what you cannot change, and the door to clarity, accessed through the unglamorous habit of questioning your own assumptions. The journey ahead is one of rediscovery. We will sweep away the clutter of overcomplication and hold up the key, the one you've seen 1,000 times. Its teeth are shaped by integrity, its bow forged in awareness. It is not a magic wand, it is a tool. Its power is not in turning lead to gold, but in opening the locks we've placed on our own potential. The key was never hidden. It was on the ring all along, passed to you the moment you began to think, to feel, to be. We have only to stop ignoring it, to pick it up, and to finally turn it in the lock. Chapter 1. Awareness is power before action. We live in a culture of immediate action. Move fast and break things. Just do it. Hustle. These mantras frame action as the supreme virtue, the only antidote to stagnation. We believe that power is generated in the flurry of activity, the checked-off list, the visible, tangible proof that we are doing something. Inactivity feels like failure. Stillness feels like guilt. This is a profound and costly misunderstanding. Before the sculptor's chisel ever touches the marble, there is a period of looking, a deep, silent study of the grain, the flaws, the latent forms sleeping within the stone. To skip this is to risk shattering the work. Before the general deploys a single soldier, they must study the terrain, the weather, the enemy's disposition. Action without this reconnaissance is not boldness, it is sacrifice. Human life is no different. The first and most fundamental power we possess is not the power to act, but the power to see. Not with the passive glance of routine, but with the active, unflinching gaze of awareness. Awareness is the light we shine into the dim rooms of our own existence. You cannot solve a problem you refuse to see, navigate a space you refuse to illuminate, or heal a wound you insist is not there. Our problem is that we are sleepwalkers in our own lives. We operate from a script written by habit, by societal expectation, by unchecked emotion. You react with irritation to a coworker's comment without seeing that the true source is your own anxiety about an unfinished project. You reach for your phone in a moment of quiet, unaware of the subtle dread of boredom you are fleeing. You repeat a pattern in relationships, blind to the core belief, I am not worthy of calm love, that directs the play. You are a marionette, believing yourself to be the puppeteer. Awareness is the act of finding the strings. It is the pause between stimulus and response. In that pause, which may last a second or a month, lies all our freedom and our power. Let us break this down practically. Awareness operates on 3 interconnected levels. First, awareness of the external. This is the simplest form. It is noticing the actual reality of a situation, stripped of your story about it. It is seeing that your partner said, I wish you'd told me earlier, rather than hearing, you are always irresponsible. It is feeling the actual tension in your shoulders at your desk, rather than vaguely knowing you're stressed. This is about becoming a precise observer of facts. Second, awareness of the internal. This is the realm of thoughts and emotions. It is the practice of witnessing your inner weather without being swept away by the storm. The thought arises, this project is going to fail. Instead of blindly following that thought into a spiral of anxiety, you simply note it. The catastrophe prediction thought is here. The emotion arises, a surge of jealousy. Instead of either indulging it or repressing it, you feel its physical signature, a clenching in the gut, and name it. This is jealousy. You see the thought or emotion as a passing cloud in the vast sky of your awareness, not as the sky itself. Third, and most transformative, awareness of the gap. This is the recognition of the space between the observed and the observer. It is the dawning understanding that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who hears them. You are not your anger. You are the one who feels its heat. This is the foundational insight. There is a core of conscious presence that is prior to all content. Discovering this is like realizing you are the cinema screen, not the dramatic movie playing upon it. This awareness of awareness is the ultimate source of stability. Cultivating this power requires not effort, but a gentle, consistent returning. It is built through micro-practices, setting a timer to simply feel your breath for 1 minute, asking, what am I actually feeling right now, 3 times a day, taking a walk without headphones, letting your senses fully inhabit the world, writing down your reactive thoughts to see their often absurd logic on paper. This is not navel-gazing. It is strategic reconnaissance of the only terrain that matters, your own conscious experience. From this clarified seeing, action naturally arises, but it is now intelligent, proportionate, and aligned. It is the archer who, aware of the wind, adjusts her aim. It is the gardener who, aware of the season, plants the appropriate seed. Awareness is power before action because it is the power to choose your action. Without it, you are a reactor. With it, you become a creator. The sleepwalker awakens, looks around, and finally sees the door. Now the decision to walk through it can be made with eyes wide open. Chapter 2. The Invisible Prison of Unconscious Living. If awareness is the light of freedom, then its absence constructs the most perfect of prisons. Its walls are not stone and iron, but thought and habit. Its bars are forged from unchecked assumptions, and its lock is the belief that this confined space is, in fact, the entire world. This is the prison of unconscious living, and most of us occupy it, mistaking our cell for a castle. The tragedy of this prison is its invisibility. We feel the confinement, a nagging sense of limitation, a frustration that our lives follow repetitive, unsatisfying scripts, but we blame the furniture. We think if we just rearrange the circumstances, a new job, a new partner, a new city, we will be free. But we take the architect of the prison with us, our own unconscious mind. Unconscious living is the default operating system of the human mind, a necessary evolutionary shorthand. To consciously process every breath, heartbeat, or footfall would overwhelm us. The mind creates efficient programs, neural pathways of habit, belief, and reaction. These become the invisible algorithms running in the background, dictating up to 95% of our daily behavior. We are not living our lives, we are living the output of these ingrained programs. Consider the morning routine, a mindless sequence from alarm clock to commute. Consider the political opinion absorbed from a parent, now defended as personal conviction. Consider the flinch of insecurity when receiving feedback, an ancient program labeled "not good enough" booting up. We are not choosing these responses, we are being lived by them. This is the essence of the prison, the illusion of choice where none exists. The warden of this prison is the ego, the constructed sense of I. Its primary job is self-preservation, not truth or happiness. To maintain its identity, it filters reality. It notices evidence that confirms its beliefs. See, I am unlucky, and dismisses contradicting facts. It weaves narratives where it is the hero or the victim, but never the responsible author. It prefers the familiar misery of the cell to the terrifying uncertainty of the unknown yard. We see this play out in tangible ways. The loop of reaction. Someone speaks sharply. The unconscious program disrespect is triggered. Without pause, you fire back or retreat wounded. The transaction is complete, and the program is reinforced. The prison walls thicken. You never ask, what pain might be behind their words? What tender part of me just got touched? The tyranny of, I'm just that way. This is the ultimate surrender of agency. I'm just impatient. I'm just not a math person. I'm just a pessimist. These are not truths. They are life sentences you have pronounced upon yourself, mistaking a temporary mental state for permanent identity. They become the immutable law of your prison. The pursuit of prison decor. This is the most seductive trap. Sensing the confinement, we strive to make the cell luxurious. We chase promotions, accolades, possessions, and likes, hoping they will make the prison feel like a palace. But a gilded cage is still a cage. The underlying mechanisms of anxiety, comparison, and inadequacy continue to run uninterrupted by the new decor. The cost of this incarceration is a life lived in black and white, a predictable story on a narrow stage. It is a life of managed suffering, where joy is fleeting and anxiety is the baseline. Creativity, the spontaneous burst of the new, is stifled, for the unconscious mind can only reassemble the past. Deep connection is hampered, for we relate from behind bars, projecting our own unfinished stories onto others. The first step to freedom is not breaking down the walls. It is, as Chapter 1 revealed, simply seeing them. To notice the moment the old program takes the wheel. To catch the "I'm just that way" thought and hold it up to the light. To feel the hollow ache after a victory that was only prison decor. This recognition is profoundly disorienting. The prison, once invisible, is now seen. The scripts feel stale. The reactions feel robotic. This disorientation is not a setback. It is the first true sign of waking up. It is the feeling of a prisoner who, for the first time, has stopped pacing and instead has placed their hands on the wall, feeling its texture, understanding its manufactured nature. The prison is made of mind, and what the mind has built, the mind can deconstruct. But it starts not with force, but with the quiet, revolutionary act of paying attention. The key was always in your hand. Now you must look at the lock. Chapter 3. Why awareness feels uncomfortable at first. The path of awareness, once chosen, is often met not with immediate peace, but with a surprising wave of discomfort. We begin to pay attention to our thoughts, our patterns, our buried emotions, and instead of the clarity we were promised, we may find agitation. A voice arises. "This is too hard. It was easier before. I liked my stories." This impulse to retreat is not a sign of failure. It is the first predictable sign of success. Awareness is disruptive by nature, and understanding why it feels uncomfortable is essential to moving through this initial phase without turning back. We are dismantling the primary coping mechanism of a lifetime: distraction. The unconscious mind is a master of distraction. It fills every silent gap with noise, with planning, worrying, reminiscing, scrolling. To sit in simple awareness is to turn off the radio that has been playing static in the background for decades. The sudden silence is deafening. We are left alone with the raw, unfiltered data of our own existence, and at first, that data stream can feel like chaos. This silence is not empty, it is full of everything we've been using the noise to avoid. The discomfort, then, is a form of withdrawal. We are detoxing from a steady diet of mental avoidance. This leads to the second, more challenging source of discomfort. We must face the truth gap. This is the chasm between the curated story of our lives and the raw, unedited reality. The ego, our inner curator, has spent years crafting a narrative. In this story, we are rational, mostly right, slightly misunderstood, and on a clear upward trajectory. Awareness shines a light on the discrepancies. We see the pettiness in a reaction we had justified as righteous. We feel the envy we had disguised as moral superiority. We witness the fear driving our ambition, or the laziness masquerading as busyness. This confrontation is a kind of psychic surgery. It is the lancing of an emotional abscess. The release is necessary for healing, but the initial pressure and pain can make us wish we'd left the bandage on. The ego, feeling exposed, will fight back. It will label awareness as overthinking, self-indulgence, or creating problems where there are none. Its job is to maintain the familiar story, and you have just become a threat to national security. This internal resistance feels like discomfort, but it is actually a sign that you are getting close to something real. Finally, awareness brings a temporary loss of identity. We have, as discussed, mistaken our mental programs for who we are. I am an anxious person. I am a people pleaser. I am my job. As we observe these patterns with detachment, a frightening question arises. If I am not these thoughts, these reactions, these roles, then who am I? The old familiar labels begin to peel away, and what remains can feel like a void. This is perhaps the deepest discomfort, the vertigo of the undefined self. We are standing on the solid ground of a known, if limiting, identity, and stepping into the open air of pure potential. The mind, craving definition, interprets this openness as a threat. It screams for us to grab back onto an old label, any label, to stop the free fall. So what is to be done with this discomfort? The instruction is counterintuitive. Lean into it, but don't fight it. First, recognize discomfort as a signpost, not a stop sign. When you feel that internal squirm, that desire to reach for your phone or drown the feeling in food or busyness, pause. Mentally note, awareness is touching something tender. This is the work. This simple recognition transforms the experience from a personal failure into a neutral, even interesting phenomenon. Second, practice curiosity over condemnation. When you see an unflattering truth, approach it not with the ego's shame, I'm terrible, but with the scientist's curiosity. Fascinating, look at that mechanism at work. Ask gentle questions. What does this jealousy really feel in my body? What ancient fear is this procrastination protecting me from? This shifts the energy from battle to exploration. Third, start small and be practical. You do not need to sit in silent meditation for an hour and confront your entire psyche. Begin with micro moments of uncomfortable truth. Before reacting in a conversation, take one breath to feel what's truly there. When a wave of anxiety about the future hits, say to yourself, this is a story about the future. I am actually safe in this present moment. Build your tolerance for reality in small, manageable doses. The initial discomfort of awareness is the friction of awakening. It is the feeling of scales falling from your eyes, and yes, for a moment, the new light is blinding. But this phase is temporary. On the other side of this honest confrontation lies a profound relief, the relief of no longer needing to manage a fiction, of no longer fighting yourself. The energy once spent on maintaining the prison walls becomes available for living. You begin to trade the brittle comfort of illusion for the sturdy, reliable ground of what is. The journey continues, but now you are walking on solid earth, eyes open to both the beauty and the rubble, no longer asleep in a cell you mistook for the world. Chapter 4. Awareness versus Willpower. We're taught that to change, we must summon our willpower, to resist the temptation, to force the action, to grind through the resistance. We conceptualize our minds as a battlefield, the disciplined general of willpower versus the rebellious mob of bad habits. We grit our teeth, we white-knuckle our way through the day, and we often fail, leaving us feeling weak and demoralized. This entire framework, while culturally revered, is fundamentally flawed. It is a brutal, exhausting, and ultimately losing strategy. There is a superior force, one that operates not through conflict, but through clarity, awareness. Willpower is a finite resource, a muscle that fatigues. Every decision to resist, to suppress, to force depletes this reservoir. By afternoon, after a morning of willing yourself to focus, to be polite, to avoid distractions, the tank is empty. The very habit you fought all day now overpowers you with ease. Willpower operates on the level of content. It tries to manage specific thoughts. Don't think about cake. Suppress specific emotions. Don't feel anxious. And control specific behaviors. Don't scroll. It is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It demands constant, exhausting effort, and the moment your attention wavers, the ball explodes back to the surface, often with greater force. Awareness operates on an entirely different plane. It does not fight the content, it changes the context. It is not the general on the battlefield, but the observer in the watchtower. Its power lies not in suppression, but in seeing. Consider the urge to procrastinate. The willpower approach is to berate yourself. Just start, you're so lazy, and attempt to force your body into the chair. This creates internal conflict, a civil war. The energy for the task is consumed by the fight against the resistance. The awareness approach is to pause and investigate. You feel the visceral pull toward distraction. Instead of fighting it, you turn toward it with curiosity. You feel the tightness in your chest, the aversion in your gut. You ask silently, "What is this? What am I actually avoiding? Is it fear of failure? The discomfort of not knowing the first step?" You don't try to answer intellectually, you just hold the question in a space of kind attention. Something miraculous then happens. In the light of this non-judgmental awareness, the monolithic resistance often begins to deconstruct. You see it is not a solid wall, but a collection of fleeting sensations and old fearful thoughts. You are no longer identified with the resistance, "I am a procrastinator." You are simply aware of its presence. From this detached vantage point, the compulsion loses its hypnotic power. The choice to begin the task is no longer a violent overthrow of your own will. It becomes a simple, possible next step. The energy is freed for the task itself. This is the alchemy of awareness. It creates space. In the gap between impulse and action, illuminated by awareness, true choice is born. Willpower tries to replace the impulse. "Don't eat the cookie." Awareness simply sees the impulse. There is a strong desire for a cookie, along with the accompanying bodily sensations and the story, "Eating this will make me feel better." From this clear seeing, multiple options arise. You might still eat the cookie, but now consciously, savoring it, not as a fugitive stealing a treat. You might choose a glass of water instead, recognizing the craving was thirst or boredom. Or you might decide to pause for 5 minutes, allowing the wave of desire to crest and subside on its own. The action is no longer automatic, it is chosen. This does not mean willpower is useless. It has its place as a short-term emergency brake, but to rely on it as your primary engine for change is like trying to drive cross-country using only the parking brake. It's jarring, inefficient, and will burn out the mechanism. Cultivating awareness as your default mode requires a shift in practice, from control to curiosity. When a problematic pattern arises, drop the agenda to fix it. Instead, become a fascinated observer of its mechanics. What does this anxiety feel like precisely? Where does it reside? From judgment to notation. Replace "I'm so weak for wanting this" with the neutral mental note "craving is present." This disentangles your core self from the passing storm of thought or desire. From force to allowing. Allow the feeling to be there without needing it to leave. This is the ultimate paradox. By fully allowing the urge without acting on it, you drain it of its compulsive energy. It is the difference between tense resistance and relaxed, alert presence. Awareness does not give you superhuman control. It gives you something better: sovereignty. You are no longer a puppet jerked around by unconscious impulses, nor a tyrant brutally suppressing them. You become the wise leader of your own inner domain, informed by the clear, compassionate intelligence of what is. The battle ceases, not because you have won, but because you have withdrawn from the battlefield and seen it for the illusion it always was. The power that follows is not the strained power of holding on, but the effortless power of seeing clearly and choosing freely. Chapter 5. Consciousness alters reality, not effort. We have been sold a lie of immense proportions. It is a lie so deeply woven into our culture that to question it feels like heresy, that effort is the primary engine of change, that to reshape our reality we must push, grind, strive, and overcome, that sweat equates to value, and struggle is the sole proof of worth. We worship the straining muscle, the sleepless night, the relentless hustle. We believe if we are not exhausted, we are not trying hard enough. This paradigm is not only exhausting, it is fundamentally misaligned with how reality, and particularly conscious reality, actually operates. It confuses motion with direction, and strain with power. The truth is more subtle, more profound, and ultimately more liberating. Consciousness itself is the formative force. The quality of your awareness doesn't just perceive reality, it participates in its creation. Effort, then, is not the driver. It is, at best, a focused application of an already created direction. At worst, it is the frantic flailing of someone trying to sculpt marble with a sledgehammer instead of a chisel. Consider the most elemental level, perception. Two people stand in the same rainstorm. One perceives a miserable, cold delay, their consciousness filled with frustration and annoyance. The other perceives a cleansing, vital gift for the parched earth, their consciousness tuned to wonder and gratitude. The physical reality, the falling water, is identical. The experienced reality is utterly different, created in that moment by the quality of conscious attention. Your consciousness is not a passive camera recording the world. It is an active painter, applying the hues of interpretation, meaning, and emotional tone to the raw canvas of sensory data. This principle scales. Your consciousness, when clouded by unconscious beliefs like "I am not enough" or "the world is scarce," will actively seek and even co-create evidence to confirm this view. You will perceive slights where none were intended, see closed doors where opportunities exist, and interpret neutral events as personal affirmations of your lack. Your reality contracts to fit the shape of your dominant state of awareness. Conversely, a consciousness grounded in a felt sense of worth and possibility will perceive openings, attract collaborative people, and interpret setbacks as navigable challenges. It is not that effort disappears, but it becomes channeled, intelligent, and often joyful. The effort follows the consciousness, it does not precede it. This is why sheer, blind effort so often fails. You can expend immense effort trying to build a business while your unconscious consciousness is rooted in a story of "I will probably fail." The effort becomes a stressful, grinding attempt to outrun a shadow. You are trying to build a new structure on a foundation that actively undermines it. The primary work, then, is not more effort on the surface level. It is the shift in consciousness beneath the effort, from "I will probably fail" to "I am capable and learning," where simply "I am curious to see what unfolds." How, then, do we consciously employ this formative power? It begins with a radical shift in priority. Prioritize state over strategy. Before you launch into the how, the effortful strategy, attend to the who. Who are you being as you approach this? Anxious, rushed, insecure? Or are you centered, open, and receptive? Spend 5 minutes in silence, feeling your breath, releasing tension, and setting a conscious intention for clarity or calm. This recalibrates the instrument before you try to play the song. Cultivate the inner witness. This is the aspect of consciousness that can observe your thoughts and emotions without being them. When you feel the old, constricting story arise, "This is too hard," the witness can note the "this is too hard" story is here. This simple act of observation creates a gap. In that gap, you are no longer fused with the limiting consciousness. You are the space around it, and from that space, a new, more expansive consciousness can emerge. Practice conscious perception. This is the active art of choosing your focus. In any moment, you can ask, "Where is my attention? Is it locked on the one critical comment, or can I consciously widen it to include the 3 pieces of positive feedback? Is it consumed by the problem, or can I gently guide it to a memory of a past solution?" You are not denying reality, you are directing the creative spotlight of your awareness. What you focus on grows, not magically, because your energy and perception flow to it, revealing its possibilities and connections. This is not passive positive thinking. It is the active, disciplined selection of consciousness. It is the understanding that your internal state is your first and most important creation. From a consciousness of peace, effective action flows smoothly. From a consciousness of resentment, even success feels bitter. From a consciousness of openness, solutions appear. From a consciousness of lack, only more lack is perceived. The sculptor does not alter the marble by beating it. They alter it by holding a clear, conscious vision of the form within, and then applying precise, mindful force. Your life is your material. Effort is your tool. But consciousness, the clarity, calm, and intention with which you hold the vision and wield the tool, is the sculptor's hand. Stop trying to change your reality by brute force. Change the consciousness from which you perceive and engage with it, and watch, as if by a subtle law, the reality itself begins to rearrange. Chapter 6. The Observer Effect in Daily Life. In the realm of quantum physics, a principle exists that shatters our classical intuitions, the observer effect. It posits that the act of observation itself influences the phenomenon being observed. A particle's behavior changes depending on whether it is being measured. While we must be cautious not to misapply quantum weirdness to the macroscopic world of human emotion, a powerful metaphorical truth emerges. The quality of your attention fundamentally alters the thing upon which it rests. In your daily life, you are not a passive spectator. You are an active participant observer, and your gaze has creative power. When you observe a feeling with fear or judgment, you contract around it. Your observation is like a harsh white light that causes the feeling to shrink or harden in defense. Anxiety observed with panic becomes a paralyzing storm. Anger observed with guilt becomes a toxic, festering secret. The act of not wanting is itself a form of powerful negative attention that reinforces the unwanted thing's presence. You are observing, yes, but from within the same emotional field, and thus you amplify the signal. Conscious awareness offers a different mode of observation. It is the shift from being in the experience to being with the experience. This is the stance of the compassionate scientist, the curious explorer. It is observation from a point of gentle, detached curiosity. When you observe anxiety from this space, feeling its flutter in the chest, noting the frantic thoughts as passing weather patterns, something subtle but monumental occurs. The anxiety is no longer you. It is a phenomenon you are hosting. The energy of the observation is no longer fuel for the fire. It becomes a spacious container around it. Often, simply held in this wider non-reactive awareness, the intense emotion will peak, transform, and begin to dissipate on its own. You haven't fought it. You have disidentified from it by changing the nature of your attention. This observer effect operates in every domain. Observing a habit. The moment you decide to consciously observe your habit of reaching for your phone, you are no longer purely the habit. You are also the one watching the impulse arise, the hand move, the mind seek distraction. This split second of observational space introduces friction into the automatic cycle. You may still pick up the phone, but now you do so knowingly. The unconscious program is interrupted. Repeated with patience, this observing presence weakens the habit's neural pathway, not through suppression, but through illumination. Observing a relationship dynamic. Consider a pattern of conflict with a partner. While entangled in it, you are a reactor, debating whose fault it is. To apply the observer effect, you step back, even mid-argument, and witness the pattern itself. You observe your own rising defensiveness. You observe their triggered tone. You see the ancient dance playing out once more, the pursuer and the distancer, the critic and the defender. By observing the dance instead of just your own steps, the entire context changes. The fight often loses its steam, replaced by a weary, shared recognition. Ah, we're doing that again. From this observational platform, a new, more creative response can emerge. Observing your own narrative. We all have a running commentary, a story of my life. It is filled with heroes, villains, victories, and injustices. To observe this narrative is to realize you are both the narrator and the audience. You can hear the voice say, "Nothing ever works out for me," and instead of believing it, you can note, that is the victim story narration. This doesn't make life's hardships disappear, but it removes their ultimate authority over your identity. You are no longer the character trapped in a tragedy. You are the conscious awareness that can see the genre of the play and consider rewriting the next scene. The practice, then, is to cultivate the observing self. This is not another thought, not the critical inner voice. It is a silent, background awareness that can be summoned with a simple inward turn of attention. A gentle question can invoke it. What is happening inside me right now? Feel the answer as sensation, not story. The goal is not to observe perfectly, but to remember to observe. In the heat of emotion, you will forget. You will become the anger, the anxiety, the craving. The moment you realize you have forgotten, that moment of, "Oh, I'm lost in it again," is the triumph. That is the observer returning. That is the key turning in the lock. Your life is your own personal laboratory. Every moment of frustration, joy, boredom, or longing is an experiment awaiting your conscious attention. You are not changing reality by brute will. You are changing your relationship to it, and thus its very texture and potential by the transformative quality of your gaze. The observer effect reveals that you are not a stone being shaped by the river. You are the river, and you are the bank, and you are the quiet, knowing presence watching it all flow by. And in that watching, the flow itself can change its course. Chapter 7. Awareness of thought creates mental freedom. We live in a world inside our heads. It is a ceaselessly generative world, a factory of stories, predictions, judgments, and replays. This inner narration is so constant, so pervasive, that we mistake its noise for silence. We believe we are this voice, that its opinions are our deepest truths, its fears our inevitable fate. This identification is the final and most binding lock on the prison door. To be unaware of thought is to be enslaved by it. But to become aware of thought is to discover the single most liberating truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that perceives them. This realization is the genesis of true mental freedom. Thought is a tool, an incredibly powerful tool for planning, creating, and navigating the physical world. But when we mistake the tool for the user, chaos reigns. The tool runs autonomously, churning out catastrophic predictions, "You're going to fail," harsh criticisms, "You always do this," and seductive fantasies that pull us from the present. We board every train of thought that pulls into the station, no matter its destination, and we are carried away into anxiety about the future or regret about the past. We are passive passengers on a runaway locomotive we believe we are driving. The first act of freedom is to step off the train. This is the power of metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. It is the movement from being in the thought to being aware of the thought. Instead of "I am a failure," you notice, there is a thought that says "I am a failure." This slight shift in perspective creates a world of space. It is the difference between being soaked by a rainstorm and standing under a shelter, watching the rain fall. The storm may still be happening, but you are no longer defined by being wet. This awareness operates on two crucial levels. First, it reveals the pattern. Unobserved thoughts seem random, true, and authoritative. Observed thoughts reveal themselves as repetitive patterns. You begin to see the familiar grooves, the worry track that always spirals into worst-case scenarios, the comparison track that measures you against others, and the self-diminishment track that dismisses your own achievements. Seeing the pattern robs it of its originality and thus its power. Ah, you note, the old not good enough record is playing again. You no longer have to listen with fresh horror each time. Second, it disidentifies from the content. A thought is a temporary mental event, a cloud passing through the vast sky of your awareness. When you are fused with it, the cloud becomes the entire sky, blotting out the sun. Awareness allows you to see the cloud as a cloud and to recognize the unchanging, clear sky that contains it. You are the sky. This is not a poetic metaphor, but a direct, experiential possibility. The thought, "I am sad," arises. Instead of collapsing into sadness, you can feel there is sadness present. You host the feeling. You are not consumed by it. The core of you, the observing presence, remains untouched. How do we cultivate this liberating awareness? It is a gentle, persistent training of attention. The practice of noting. Silently label thoughts as they arise. Planning, worrying, remembering, judging. Keep it simple and neutral. This creates the critical separation between the thinker and the thought. You are the one applying the label, not the label itself. Questioning the narrative. When a strong, emotionally charged thought arises, don't accept its headline as truth. Gently interrogate it. Is this thought absolutely true? What is the evidence for and against it? Is this thought helpful? Often you'll find the thought is a fragile assumption, not a fact. This doesn't mean spiraling into debate, but shining the light of inquiry on a statement you had previously accepted as law. Returning to the anchor. Thoughts will pull you away. Your breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the sounds around you, these are anchors in the present moment. Each time you notice you have been carried away by a thought train, gently return your attention to the anchor. This is not a failure. Each return is a rep, a strengthening of the muscle of awareness. It is the very act of choosing the sky over the cloud. This mental freedom does not mean the end of thinking. It means the end of unconscious thinking. It means you can use the tool of thought intentionally, creatively, and then set it down. You can have a thought without becoming its martyr or its evangelist. From this space of freedom, choice becomes possible. Instead of automatically reacting to a thought of insult with anger, you can see the thought, feel the bodily flare of reaction, and choose a response, perhaps compassion, perhaps clear boundary setting, perhaps simple non-engagement. The thought no longer owns you. The noisy world inside your head begins to quiet, not because you have silenced it, but because you have stopped confusing its chatter with your identity. In the spacious silence of awareness that remains, you find a peace that is not dependent on the content of your thoughts. You are no longer a prisoner of your own mind. You are its watchful, compassionate warden, and at last, you hold the keys. Chapter 8. Emotional awareness ends suffering. Emotion is the weather of our inner world. It can be a gentle, sun-dappled breeze of contentment or a sudden raging squall of grief. For most of our lives, we have been taught one of two flawed strategies for dealing with this weather: either to be swept away by it, drowning in the downpour, or to desperately board up the windows and deny the storm exists. We either are the storm, or we are in a futile, exhausting war against it. Both strategies guarantee suffering. The first is the suffering of being lost at sea. The second is the suffering of living in a dark, barricaded room, terrified of the sky. There is a third way. It is the way of emotional awareness. This is not a path of eliminating emotion, but of transforming your relationship to it. Suffering, at its root, is not caused by the presence of emotional pain. It is caused by our resistance to that pain. It is the friction created when the raw, natural energy of an emotion meets the clenched fist of our denial, our judgment, our fear. Emotional awareness is the art of opening that fist. It is the practice of allowing the weather to be exactly what it is, while you, as the conscious observer, remain rooted in the stable ground of your being. This is how suffering ends. Our primary error is identification. We say, I am angry, I am sad, I am anxious. This linguistic and psychological fusion is the core of the problem. The moment you become the emotion, you lose all perspective and agency. You are the hurricane, not the lighthouse observing it. Emotional awareness begins with a simple, radical rephrasing from I am angry to anger is present, from I am afraid to there is fear here. This is not semantic play. It is a fundamental shift in consciousness. It creates a critical separation between the pure, witnessing awareness that is you and the temporary energetic phenomenon passing through you. You are the sky. The emotion is the cloud. You are the ocean. The emotion is the wave. To navigate this, we must understand the anatomy of an emotion. An emotion is not a monolithic thing. It is a process with 3 distinct components, and awareness can meet each one. The triggering story. This is the mental narrative that sparks the emotion. He disrespected me. I'm going to fail. I am alone. Unaware, we believe this story to be the complete and absolute truth. Awareness allows us to see it as just that, a story, a single interpretation of events. We can question it, hold it lightly, or simply note its presence without endorsement. The bodily sensation. This is the pure physical data of the emotion. It is the clench in the jaw, anger, the hollow ache in the chest, sadness, the fluttering tightness in the stomach, anxiety. This is the emotion in its rawest, cleanest form, stripped of its story. Awareness directed here is profoundly healing. It involves dropping the mental narrative and diving directly into the physical feeling with gentle curiosity. Where do I feel this? What is its texture? Is it hot, cold, dense, vibrating? Does it shift or change as I pay attention to it? This direct engagement with sensation grounds you in the present moment and in your body, away from the catastrophic fantasies of the mind. The urge to act. This is the impulse the emotion generates. Anger shouts fight, fear whispers flee, sadness murmurs withdraw. Unconscious, we obey these impulses automatically, often creating more suffering. Awareness creates a pause. It allows you to feel the powerful urge fully, the adrenaline surge, the tightening muscles, without immediately enacting it. In that pause between the impulse and the action lies your freedom. You can let the wave of the urge crest and fall within you, and then choose a response that is wise and aligned, rather than reactive. The practice, therefore, is to sit with the sensation. When a difficult emotion arises, your primary task is not to change it, understand it, or tell its story. Your task is to feel it, directly and bravely, as pure bodily experience. Breathe into the tightness. Send a gentle inner kindness to the ache. Welcome it not as an enemy, but as a temporary guest in the house of your body. This is incredibly counterinstinctual. Our every neuron screams to avoid or explode. But in that welcoming, a miracle occurs. The emotion, held in the warm, non-resistant space of awareness, is allowed to complete its natural cycle. It moves, it transforms, it dissipates. Energy that was trapped in the loop of resistance is liberated. The storm, acknowledged and allowed, eventually passes, leaving the air cleansed. This does not mean you become a passive blob. Ending suffering doesn't end pain, injustice, or the need for action. It means your actions arise not from a place of reactive, blinded emotion, but from a place of clear, compassionate seeing. You may still need to set a boundary, but it comes from calm clarity, not snarling resentment. You may still need to grieve, but you do so as one who honors the love, not as one drowning in the loss. Emotional awareness ends suffering because it ends the war with yourself. You stop being both the prisoner and the jailer of your own heart. You learn to host all your feelings with a dignity and grace that renders even the darkest ones sacred. You realize you are not the weather. You are the vast, quiet space in which all weather comes and goes. And in that space, there is an unshakable peace. Chapter 9. Awareness in Relationships and Power Dynamics. Relationships are the crucible where awareness is most profoundly tested and most urgently needed. They're the mirrors held up to our unconscious patterns, the stage where our hidden scripts are performed with other actors. We enter connections seeking reflection, comfort, and growth, yet so often find ourselves trapped in familiar, painful dances. Why? Because we relate from the prison of our own condition. Chapter 9. Awareness in Relationships and Power Dynamics. Relationships are the crucible where awareness is most profoundly tested and most urgently needed. They're the mirrors held up to our unconscious patterns, the stage where our hidden scripts are performed with other actors. We enter connections seeking reflection, comfort, and growth, yet so often find ourselves trapped in familiar, painful dances. Why? Because we relate from the prison of our own conditioning, projecting our unfinished stories onto the other person and reacting to the projection as if it were reality. To bring awareness into relationship is to turn on the lights in the dance hall. Suddenly, you can see your own steps, your partners, and the pattern you are creating together. This changes everything. Unconscious relationship is a transaction of projections. We unconsciously seek partners who will confirm our deepest, often unhealed beliefs. If we carry a hidden story of unworthiness, we will be drawn to and subtly invite behaviors that make us feel unseen or inadequate. We then blame the other for making us feel this way, never seeing that we co-created the dynamic to validate our inner narrative. This is the invisible contract of suffering. I will play my role if you play yours. Awareness interrupts this contract. It begins with the most difficult and liberating of realizations. Your emotional reactions in relationship are often more about your history than your partner's present action. Their comment or behavior is a trigger. The explosive charge was already within you, wired to an old wound. Awareness asks the pivotal question in the heat of a reaction. What ancient echo is this? What old pain is being touched? This turns your gaze from the enemy out there to the tender spot within. It is not about absolving others of responsibility, but about claiming your own sovereignty over your emotional world. This internal shift alters the external dynamic completely. When you can witness your own defensiveness arising, the heat in the face, the tightening chest, the mental list of grievances, you create a gap. In that gap, you have a choice. You can follow the old script into blame and escalation, or you can do something revolutionary. You can state your internal experience without accusation. This is the cornerstone of conscious communication. Instead of the unconscious, projected attack, you never listen to me, you're so selfish. You offer the aware, owned observation. When you looked at your phone while I was speaking, I felt a sharp pang of insignificance. An old story of not being heard got triggered in me. The first statement is a missile that guarantees a counterstrike. The second is an invitation. It is vulnerable. It is true. and it gives the other person a map to your inner world instead of an indictment of their character. It transforms a power struggle into a potential moment of intimacy. This is awareness as a relational superpower. This awareness also illuminates the subtle and not so subtle power dynamics in all our interactions with partners, family, colleagues, and institutions. Unconscious, we either blindly submit to power, blindly rebel against it, or blindly wield it ourselves. Awareness allows us to see the dynamic field. In a meeting, you can feel the pull to defer to the loudest voice and choose to speak your calibrated truth. You can notice when you are using expertise or tone to dominate and choose to soften into curiosity. You can observe a pattern where you chronically overgive, a form of seeking power through martyrdom, and feel the resentment that follows, and choose to set a boundary. Awareness reveals the hidden economy of every interaction. Who is seeking validation? Who is withdrawing power? Who is playing a role to feel safe? To be aware in relationship is to practice double vision, holding simultaneous awareness of your own inner state and the relational field between you. It is a delicate, moment-to-moment dance. It requires the courage to be vulnerable and the strength to be separate. It means seeing the other person not as a character in your story, but as a sovereign, complex being with their own wounds and worlds, dancing right next to you. This does not guarantee harmony. Some relationships, seen clearly, are revealed to be incompatible or even toxic, but awareness allows you to see this with clarity, not drama, and to make choices, to repair, to redefine, or to release from a place of centered truth, not reactive pain. Ultimately, conscious relationship is the highest expression of the key we found. It is the practice of using awareness to unlock the doors between two separate hearts. It builds bridges not from need, but from wholeness. It turns every conflict into a portal for self-discovery, and every moment of connection into a celebration of the shared, awake space you have chosen to create together. Chapter 10. Awareness and Success Without Burnout. Our modern definition of success is a prescription for depletion. It is a linear, relentless climb measured in output, accolades, and accumulated symbols. The engine for this climb is assumed to be relentless effort, a burning of fuel until the tank, our health, our joy, our relationships, hits empty. We call this burnout, as if it were an unfortunate industrial accident rather than the inevitable result of an unconscious design. We have mistaken the grind for the path and exhaustion for a badge of honor. There is another way. It is the way of aware success, not as a peak to be stormed, but as a sustainable rhythm to be inhabited. It understands that true achievement is not the absence of rest, but the conscious integration of effort and ease. Unconscious striving is rooted in lack. The driving force is often an invisible story. I am not enough as I am, so I must achieve to become worthy. Or, the world is scarce, so I must grab my share before it's gone. This story creates a state of perpetual urgency and anxiety. You are always behind, always chasing a horizon that recedes as you approach. Your effort is fueled by fear, and as with any fear-based action, it is inefficient and exhausting. You are running on a treadmill, mistaking frantic motion for forward progress. Awareness first exposes this inner driver. It allows you to hear the whisper of not enough and see how it turns every task into a proof of concept for your worth. Success built on this foundation is hollow. It demands ever greater trophies to quiet a voice that can never be satisfied by external validation. The first liberation is to separate your sense of worth from your output, to realize through direct observation that your being is intact and valuable even in stillness. This doesn't kill ambition, it purifies it. Ambition now can arise from a place of curiosity, contribution, or creative expression, from a sense of fullness, not lack. From this grounded being, awareness then restructures how you work. It applies the principles of conscious observation to the very process of achievement. Awareness of energy, not just time. Unconscious effort tries to manage time, packing every minute with activity. Aware success manages energy. It recognizes that focus, creativity, and stamina are cyclical resources. It asks, what is the quality of my energy right now? Is this a time for deep, focused work, high mental energy? For collaborative brainstorming, high social energy? Or for administrative tasks, low mental energy? It honors the natural need for restoration, seeing a walk, a pause, or a moment of silence not as wasted time, but as the essential maintenance that allows the engine to perform at its peak when engaged. It is the difference between a sprinter trying to run a marathon at full speed and a seasoned marathoner pacing their strides and hydrating. Awareness of the essential. The unconscious striver says yes to everything, driven by FOMO, fear of missing out, or a need to be needed. This leads to a cluttered agenda and diluted focus. Awareness cultivates discernment. It allows you to pause before committing and ask, does this align with my core direction? Is this the most essential use of my energy? It is the practice of saying no to the good, to say yes to the great, not from harshness, but from clear-seeing respect for your finite resources. Awareness of process over obsession with outcome. Burnout festers when your entire psychic well-being is shackled to a future result you cannot fully control. Awareness anchors you in the process, the craft, the problem-solving, the learning, the next right action. You give your full attention to the brushstroke, not just the finished painting. This process-oriented awareness is inherently rewarding and sustainable. It finds flow in the work itself. The outcome becomes a natural byproduct, not a lifeline. If it succeeds, you celebrate. If it fails, you have not lost yourself, because your value was invested in the integrity of the effort, not the trophy. This aware approach transforms success from a distant destination to a present moment experience. It redefines it as aligned effectiveness, the state where your actions are in harmony with your values, your energy is respected and renewed, and your focus is clean and undiluted. The final critical awareness is of the cult of busyness. Our culture often equates being busy with being important. To be aware is to see this as a collective myth and to courageously opt out. It is to understand that your most profound insights, your most strategic decisions, and your deepest wells of resilience are refilled not in the frenzy of doing, but in the quiet space of non-doing. The aware individual schedules emptiness as diligently as they schedule meetings. Success without burnout is not about doing less of what you hate. It is about doing more of what matters in a way that honors you as a human being, not a human doing. It is the conscious application of your unique gifts in a sustainable rhythm toward a purpose that resonates with your core. It is success that feels not like a frantic escape from lack, but like a graceful expression of wholeness. The key unlocks not just a door to achievement, but to a life where the journey itself is a testament to being awake. Chapter 11. Why awareness is rare but available to all. We arrive at a paradox. If awareness is the master key, if it unlocks freedom, peace, and authentic power, why is it so uncommon? Why do we see so much sleepwalking, so much reactive living, so much exhaustion in the frantic pursuit of prison decor? The answer lies not in its secrecy, but in the formidable, unseen currents that pull us away from it. Awareness is not hidden, but it is countercultural. It is a quiet rebellion against the very fabric of modern conditioning. Understanding why it is rare only deepens the understanding of why it is so precious, and why it remains absolutely available to anyone who chooses to turn the key. The first and most powerful current is the tyranny of the urgent. Our world is engineered for distraction and reaction. Notifications are tiny emergencies. News cycles thrive on perpetual crisis. Workplaces reward rapid response over deep reflection. This constant, low-grade urgency trains our nervous system to live in a state of alert, scanning for the next thing to handle. Awareness requires a shift from reactive urgency to responsive presence. It asks us to step out of the rushing river of what's next and stand on the bank. This feels, at first, like falling behind. The ego, terrified of irrelevance, screams that we are being unproductive, that we are missing out. To choose awareness is to consciously resist a trillion-dollar attention economy designed to own your focus. The second current is the seduction of the tangible. We are a culture that values the visible, the measurable, the quantifiable. We trust data over intuition, outcomes over intentions, possessions over presence. Awareness deals in the subtle currency of inner experience, the quality of a breath, the shift in a feeling, the space between thoughts. There is no metric for peace, no likes for a moment of pure, non-judgmental observation. In a world shouting for tangible results, the silent inner cultivation of awareness can feel like doing nothing. Its fruits, clarity, emotional resilience, wise action, are profound but often invisible to the external scoreboard society uses. Choosing the subtle over the obvious is an act of deep trust. The third, deeply personal current is the comfort of the known self. As we've seen, the ego is a construct of familiar thoughts, habits, and stories. It is a known quantity, however painful. Awareness threatens this construct. To be aware is to see the ego as a collection of processes, not as your core identity. This is existentially frightening. The mind prefers the known prison to the unknown freedom. It will rationalize, defend, and distract to maintain its familiar shape, even if that shape is suffering. The initial stages of awareness can feel like a dissolution, a loss of the ground beneath your feet. This psychic discomfort is a primary reason many turn back, choosing the devil they know. Yet, for all these powerful currents pulling us away, awareness remains universally available. It is not a talent, a genetic gift, or a prize for the intellectual elite. It is the fundamental nature of consciousness itself, temporarily obscured by noise. Its availability is proven by its simplicity. You do not need special equipment, a specific creed, or a particular life circumstance. You only need what you already have, a mind that can pay attention. It is available in the mundane, in the full feeling of water on your hands while washing dishes, in the conscious tasting of a single bite of food, in the act of truly listening to the sound of a bird instead of just hearing it as background noise. It is available in the difficult, in the conscious breath taken when anger flares, in the choice to feel the physical sensation of grief instead of numbing it, in the observation of a worried thought without buying its story. It is available in the gaps, in the 3 seconds before you reach for your phone, in the pause after someone speaks to you, in the stillness between 2 tasks. The practice is not about adding something, but about remembering and redirecting. Remembering that you are the awareness behind the thought. Redirecting attention from the chaotic content of the mind to the stable ground of the observing presence. This is why every spiritual and wisdom tradition in its pure form points inward. The path is not upward or outward, but inward and downward, into the very ground of your being that is already aware. Awareness is rare because it demands courage, the courage to be bored, the courage to feel pain without an immediate escape, the the courage to be misunderstood in a world of strong opinions, the courage to value the silent witness over the loud persona. But it is available to all because it is what you already are. You are not building awareness from scratch. You are clearing away the clutter that hides it. You are not learning to be aware. You are remembering to stop being only the thing you were aware of. The key is not forged. It is found right in the palm of the hand that has been busy knocking on every other door. The rarity is not in its existence, but in the sustained, loving attention required to stop ignoring it and finally to turn it. Chapter 12. Living as Awareness, Not Seeking It. Here, at the end of our exploration, we arrive at the final, gentle paradox. The journey concludes not at a destination, but by realizing you never needed to travel. We have spent these chapters examining the key, learning its shape, feeling its weight, practicing the turn in various locks. But a key is not a place to live, it is a tool for opening. The open space on the other side of the door is where life actually happens. This is the shift from seeking awareness as an object to living as awareness, the conscious subject of all experience. It is the move from practice to presence, from technique to being. Seeking implies lack. It frames awareness as a future attainment, a special state to be captured and held. This very seeking can become the subtlest form of striving, a spiritualized version of the ego's endless pursuit. Am I aware enough? Did I do my noticing correctly? Is this enlightenment? These are the final traps laid by the mind that wants to turn everything, even awakening, into an achievement it can own. Living as awareness is different. It is not an achievement, but a recognition and a relaxation into what is already always the case. You are already aware, right now. The consciousness reading these words, perceiving the light, feeling the weight of your body, that is it. It is not something you produce, it is the space in which all production and perception occurs. The shift is from looking for this space to abiding as this space. It is the fish realizing it is not in the water, it is of the water, and the water is its home and its very substance. So what does it mean practically to live as awareness? It does not mean you float through life in a perpetual passive trance. It means your primary identity shifts from the content of your life, your thoughts, roles, successes, failures, to the context. You are the canvas, not the painting, the screen, not the movie. This contextual identity becomes your home base. From this home base, life is experienced with a new texture. Engagement without enmeshment. You can fully participate in your work, your relationships, your passions, but with a background sense of spaciousness. You can feel anger without being the anger. You can enjoy success without attaching it to your worth. You can grieve without fearing annihilation. The experiences are felt deeply, but they do not stick to the core you, because the core you is recognized as the aware space that holds them. You dive into the waves, but you never forget you are the ocean. Action without anxiety. When action arises from this space, it is clean and motivated by the needs of the situation itself, not by the ego's need for validation or control. There is no frantic me projecting a future of lack that must be avoided. There is simply the present moment necessity met with available energy and intelligence. Action becomes like a dance, responsive, fluid, and when the moment is over, it is released. There is no performer clinging to the applause. Relationship without projection. You see others more clearly because you see yourself clearly. Less of your own unfinished story is projected onto them. You encounter them more as they are, and less as characters in your personal drama. Communication becomes simpler, more direct, and more compassionate because it comes from a place of relative wholeness, not need. The practice then evolves. It is no longer about scheduled sessions of being aware. It becomes a continuous, gentle remembering, a soft, inward touchstone you return to 100 times a day. You are walking and you feel the breeze, and in that feeling there is a sudden, seamless recognition. Ah, this is being felt here, in awareness. You are in a difficult conversation, and amidst the heat, a cool, quiet knowing arises. This tension is happening here, in awareness. The subject-object relationship, me noticing my experience, begins to dissolve into a unified field of experiencing. This is not a state of perfection. The old patterns, the conditioned thoughts, the emotional storms will still arise. They are part of the human movie. The difference is you no longer mistake them for the screen. You may forget and become lost in a storyline for minutes, hours, even days, but the remembering happens more quickly. The return home to awareness, the simple noticing that you had been lost, becomes instantaneous, and in that noticing, you are already back. So we end where we began, but everything is different. The key is not ignored, it is seen for what it always was, not a tool for escape, but the very substance of the door. You realize the door itself was made of awareness, pretending to be wood and lock. There is nothing to unlock, only a pretending to be separate that can now be seen through. Living as awareness is to live lightly, deeply, and honestly. It is to meet the world from a place of inherent fullness, not seeking completion from it. The search is over, not because you found the extraordinary, but because you fell in love with the ordinary nature of your own conscious presence. You are home, and from this home, every moment, whether of joy or sorrow, is met with the same quiet, open welcome. Ah, this too is appearing here. This too belongs. This is the end of seeking and the beginning of a life truly lived. Conclusion. The forbidden key was never forbidden. We have traveled a full circle, from ignorance to recognition, from seeking to abiding. We began by lamenting the overlooked key, and we end by understanding its true nature. There is a final, liberating clarification to make, one that dissolves the last vestige of the seeker's struggle. The key was never forbidden, only feared. The door was never locked, only believed to be so. Throughout human history, we have woven myths of forbidden knowledge, a fruit that must not be eaten, a box that must not be opened, a truth too terrible or too glorious for mortal minds. We have projected this archetype onto our own liberation. We assumed that the power to end our suffering, to see clearly, to live freely, must be guarded, complex, and accessible only to the few after immense trials. We make a secret of what is simple and a mystery of what is immediate. But awareness is not a secret doctrine. It is the opposite of secrecy. It is the utterly public, blatantly obvious fact of your own existence. Consciousness itself is not hidden. It is the one thing you can never doubt, as Descartes noted. You may doubt the content of your experience, but not the fact that you are experiencing. This shining, knowing presence, this is the key. It feels forbidden not because a gatekeeper denies it to you, but because your own conditioned mind, the ego, fears its implications. The ego's entire empire is built on the premise that it is in charge, that it is the central I. Awareness, when recognized as your primary identity, dismantles this fictional governance. It is a bloodless coup that feels to the ego like annihilation. Hence, the ego tells a compelling, terrifying story. This inward turning is dangerous. This stillness is a waste. This simplicity is naive. The real power is out there, in achievement, in approval, in control. It forbids you from the one thing that would end its reign, the direct, unmediated look at your own nature. The door was never locked because there is no separation to begin with. The seeker and the sought, the prisoner and the freedom are made of the same substance, awareness. The feeling of being locked in is the trance of identification, the hypnosis of believing you are only the thought, the role, the wound. To turn the key is simply to wake up from the trance. It is not an action of breaking out, but of waking up within. So, what now? The guidance is complete. The map has been studied to the point of seeing it is a map of the room you are already standing in. All that remains is to live from this understanding, which is not an intellectual conclusion, but a felt, abiding reality. This means living without a center of problem. The old life was organized around solving the problem of me, improving me, fixing me, defending me, satisfying me. Living as awareness, you see the me as a fascinating, ever-changing flux within the field, not as the solid core. Life ceases to be a problem to be solved and becomes an experience to be lived. Challenges arise not as personal affronts, but as the natural topography of a human life, to be met with the inherent intelligence of awareness itself. It means embracing the sacred ordinary. When awareness is no longer a sought-after special state, every moment becomes its temple. The steam rising from your morning cup, the weight of a tool in your hand, the sound of rain on the roof, these are not distractions from awareness, they are the very expressions of it, appearing to itself. The mundane becomes infused with a quiet reverence, not because it is special, but because it is seen. And ultimately, it means relinquishing the final story, even this one. Any conceptual framework, including the one laid out in this book, is a finger pointing at the moon. Do not cling to the finger. Do not make a new religion of awareness. The moment you solidify it into an identity, I am an aware person, you have built a new, subtler prison. Let the concepts fall away like husks from ripe grain. What remains requires no name, no defense, no practice. It simply is. You stand now at the open doorway, not because this book opened it, but because your own attention has worn away the illusion that it was closed. The threshold is not a line to cross, but a perspective to inhabit. The world you see from here is the same world, with its beauty and its brutality, but you are no longer a fragment battling against it. You are the wholeness that contains it. The forbidden key was never forbidden. It was offered with every breath, echoed in every heartbeat, reflected in every glance. It was ignored only because we were taught to look everywhere else, to the future, to the past, to the noisy periphery, for a truth that was and is the silent center of our own being. The seeking ends, the living begins, and it begins right now. In this, in this, in this. Welcome home.